Good evening, everyone. Mandy, thank you very much for the introduction. I appreciate it. I wanted to take the opportunity, it really is a privilege for me to be here in front of all you this evening and to talk a little bit about what SHARE means to my wife and I and our family and why we're ambassadors for this organization. I want to recognize first there's two women here tonight who are very important in my life. So I mentioned my wife Julia, who's here. My mother Gladys is here. Last time my mother saw me up in front of this many people, I was 8. It was the district spelling bee in my hometown. I misspelled the word shield. Mom, I promise I'll do much better tonight. They didn't ask me to spell. My wife Julia, who is here as well, the last time that she saw me speak in front of this many people, we were in Spain, which is a bit of where our story begins this year. And I was giving a talk in Spanish, and people understood Spanish, my Spanish there about as well as you would understand my Spanish here tonight. So I'll continue in English, which Julia would tell you is one of 3 languages that I make absolutely no sense in, so hopefully you'll stick with it. But as I mentioned, for us, for Julia and I, the reason why we were in Spain is we were living in Paris at the time, and that was as wonderful an experience as you might think it would be, to be Americans in Paris, and we were expecting our first daughter, and we couldn't have been happier or more thrilled. And so when we think about the time that we were in Spain, it was 2 weeks before we found out the news that so many of you know very well. On December 12, 2006, we said hello and goodbye the same day to our daughter, Caroline. And living in Paris and being 4,000 miles away and many, many time zones away from all of the people here that meant so much to us and to support us, we were really left on our own. And as those of you who have had a loss or know people who've had a loss, you find that people enter your lives that go beyond friends and family. They're random people that somehow have a connection, make a connection with you that somehow changes your life too. And so it was the same with us. Where I was working at the time, there was another expatriate from the US who was working on the same floor as me. And I had never met her, even though we'd been working together literally across the hall for several months. We'd think probably meet somewhere along the way, but we didn't. And as news got out at work about what had happened to Julia, our friend Mala, and a friend, picked up the phone and called me, and I'll never forget this. This was the night before Julia was to deliver Caroline, which is the bravest thing that I've ever seen anybody do, knowing that there was not going to be a happy ending at the end of that story. And Mala called us and talked us through a lot of things that we really needed, that we never thought about. Here's what you should think about doing tomorrow when Julia delivers. Here's the time that you should spend together. Here's some things that helped us get through it. But she also mentioned there's an organization that you should look up online when you get a chance called SHARE. We'd never heard of it. We'd never had reason to hear of it. But here it was entering our life. Now, we've lived a lot of different places. We're originally from this area, so it's good for us to get back home. And that was one of the good things we heard about SHARE. We said, okay, that's St. Louis, we're originally from there. So, this is a good organization. What we really came to rely upon was that as we were in France and surrounded by people whose main recommendation to us was, why don't you guys get away for a while? Why don't you just forget about all this? Why don't you go to the Canary Islands? Now, normally I'd say the Canary Islands are a great place to go. But at that point, we really weren't looking to run away from something. We were looking to find something to go to. And that for us was SHARE. So thankfully, SHARE had a website. And SHARE had a message board. And SHARE helped us to understand that we were not alone in what had happened. That there were things that we could do to help move forward in our healing process. And here was an entire community of people that was dedicated to helping people like us, who had been through, quite honestly, in my view, the worst thing that could possibly happen to parents. So My wife Julia was diligently on the message boards. I learned all kinds of abbreviations. I used to think DH stood for designated hitter. Turns out it stands for dear husband, if you're not familiar. So I'm glad that I'm a DH, I think. But as we moved on, we realized how important it was that there was a resource like Share. And regardless of where you were in the world, whether you were in St. Charles or St. Louis or St. Paul, or you were in Saint-Germain or you were in Saint-Nazaire in France, that there was an organization you could go to and find out that there were people like you that were willing to help out, going beyond the volunteers, but other parents who were willing to share and would take part of your burden as a result of that. And that for us was a very meaningful thing to have. And we felt, well, what can we do to help support an organization like this? We decided to become ambassadors, and we have been for the past 3 years. And each step of the way, Share has been there for us, regardless of where we've been. And I can't think of a more noble thing that anybody can do but to help parents in need. And if we can play any small part or large part or whatever part of that, that's our obligation for Caroline.